wind howled outside, rattling the windows of the old farmhouse. Sarah sat on the couch, clutching the remote control. The news program crackled with static, and panic sounded in the reporter's voice. "Stay in your homes. Do not go outside under any circumstances. These creatures, they are not human. They seem to be attracted to any movement or noise. If you encounter one, do not engage. Seek shelter immediately and await further instructions." Sarah's heart raced as she digested the unthinkable. Creatures, not humans? Memories flashed through her mind of the evening she and her husband Michael had seen the strange light in the sky, followed by reports of power outages and strange phenomena across the state. Now it seemed the unimaginable had become a reality. Whatever these creatures were, they were dangerous, and they were out there somewhere in the darkness, hunting. Michael burst through the door, slamming it shut behind him. "Sarah, we have to get out of here now," he gasped, his face ashy. "What's going on?" she asked, already rising to her feet. "I saw one of them," Michael stammered. "It wasn't a person, Sarah. It was some kind of monster. And there are more of them out there in the fields. We have to leave before they find us." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "But the news said to stay in the house. Where can we even go?" "I don't know," Michael replied, his voice shaking. "But we can't stay here. It's not safe." Reluctantly, Sarah followed Michael into the garage, where they hastily loaded their belongings into the car. As they pulled onto the road, Sarah saw one of the creatures in the distance, its pale, distorted features illuminated by the car's headlights. They drove for hours, the radio crackling with increasingly horrific reports. Cities were overrun, highways blocked by abandoned cars. The creatures seemed to have taken over everything around them, and their numbers were growing by the minute. Eventually, they found themselves on a remote country road, surrounded on all sides by dense forest. Michael stopped the car. "We can't go any further," he said in a voice barely above a whisper. "We're trapped." "What do we do now?" asked Sarah. Michael shook his head. "I don't know. All I know is that we can't go back there. The Atawari are everywhere. We have to find a place to hide and wait it out." They surveyed the area looking for some sort of hiding place. Finally, they spotted an old, dilapidated farmhouse, half hidden by trees. "Over there," Michael said, pointing. "That might fit." They approached the farmhouse cautiously. They were very scared. The front door was thrown open wide, as if inviting them in. They stepped inside in silence, their footsteps echoing in the empty silence. The house was in disrepair, dust and cobwebs covering every surface. But it seemed safe, at least for the moment. "We'll set up a rest stop here," Michael said, lowering his voice. "We need to sit tight and keep our heads down. Hopefully we can hold out until help arrives." Sarah nodded, her throat constricting with fear. She followed Michael upstairs, where they barricaded the doors and windows using whatever they could find. A noise from outside made them both freeze. They waited, straining to listen. Exhausted, they collapsed onto the dusty mattress, their bodies aching from the exertion. "Do you think anyone else made it?" Sarah whispered. Michael shook his head. "I don't. I hope so." "Let's go to sleep," he suggested. They drifted in and out of sleep, their rest disturbed by occasional sounds or the distant howl of a siren. Time seemed to drag on endlessly, and the night hung over them with an oppressive, suffocating weight. When morning finally came, they cautiously looked out the window. The world outside the window was eerily still, with only occasional stray figures flickering in the distance. "We need to find food and water," Michael said, "and try to contact someone to find out what's going on." Sarah nodded. "Let's do that." They gathered the meager supplies they could find at the farmhouse and went outside. There was an unsettling silence in the air, broken only by the occasional crunch of gravel underfoot. As they made their way toward the nearby town, they encountered more and more creatures with pale, distorted faces, staring at them with eerie, unfocused eyes. Sarah's breath caught as they passed. The creature's movements were slow and drawn out, but inexorable. The city was a scene of utter devastation. Buildings lay in ruins, cars were abandoned in the streets, and everywhere roamed creatures whose numbers seemed endless. "We need to get out of here," Michael said, his voice barely above a whisper. "There's nothing for us to do here." They hurried back to the farmhouse. As they barricaded the doors and windows again, a sense of hopelessness overwhelmed them. "What if no one comes?" Sarah asked. Michael pulled her to him, but his embrace brought no comfort. "I don't know, but we have to keep trying. We have to survive." Days turned into weeks, and the creatures still roamed the land, their numbers growing each day. Sarah and Michael replenished their dwindling supplies. They were haunted by the endless night that seemed to descend upon the world. One day, looking out the window, they saw a flickering light in the distance. Hope flashed in them, and they set out to find it. To their horror, they found a small group of survivors gathered around a makeshift campfire, desperation written on their faces. "You're the first people we've seen in weeks," said one of the survivors, a woman named Emily. "We thought we were the only ones left." Sarah and Michael told their horror stories, and the group quickly realized the gravity of their situation. "We need to find a way out," Michael said, determination in his voice. "There has to be a safe place where we can regroup and fight back." The survivors discussed their options, weighing the risks and the dwindling chances of escape. In the end, they decided to make a desperate attempt to break free, head into the darkness, and find a safe haven. As they moved forward, creatures appeared out of the shadows, their pale, lifeless eyes fixed on the group. The survivors fought back with whatever weapons they could find, their screams echoing through the night. Sarah and Michael ran, their lungs burning, their legs aching. They could hear the creatures running after them, their inhuman moans filling the air. Suddenly, they spotted a flickering light in the distance, a beacon of hope in the midst of the endless night. They moved forward until they reached a small, heavily fortified compound, its walls guarded by armed guards. "Please help us," shouted Sarah, her voice hoarse. The guards, wasting no time, led the survivors inside and closed the gates behind them. Taking a breath, Sarah and Michael felt a glimmer of hope, a small respite from the horror that had consumed the world. In the days that followed, Sarah and Michael settled into their new home in the fortified compound. The walls provided a sense of security, a refuge from the horrors that lurked outside. But as time passed, tensions began to mount. Resources were dwindling, and the creatures outside seemed to grow more numerous by the day. Some of the survivors became paranoid, suspicious of their neighbors, and others became despondent, resigned to the inevitability of their doom. One night, as Sarah and Michael watched from the watchtower, they witnessed a group of survivors attempt to break through the gates, lured by the promise of freedom beyond the walls. The ensuing chaos was devastating. The creatures crowded the opening, their screams echoing throughout the complex, and they gradually wiped everyone out. This city had been taken over by the dead,